can start discussing. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tayura Tamadava Punjabihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava Radhe. Radha Shama Sundara, Radha Shama Sundara, Radhe Radhe. Jayo Jagannatha, Jayo Baladeva, Subhakamai, Jayo Sudarshana, Jayo Nitai Chaitanya, Jayo Nitai Chaitanya. Nitai Chaitanya Jayo, Nitai Chaitanya Jayo, Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Jayo Jayo Prabhupada. Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai God Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining early today. I know some of you would have had late last evening, considering that most of us would have been engaged in book distribution for Vaikuntha Ekadashi, something that's very, very dear to Srila Prabhupada, something very dear to all our spiritual masters. So hopefully in some way or other you have all contributed. So today we'll actually go to Srimad Bhagavatam. We'll be starting a new chapter from the fourth canto. We'll be starting chapter 9. Very, very nice chapter, very philosophical in one sense, because you will actually see this is a very famous bit where many devotees talk about this chapter or this particular set of shlokas, which are Dhruv Maharaj's prayers. Like we have Kunti Devi's prayers, we had Prahlad Maharaj's prayers, we similarly have Dhruv Maharaj's prayers. They're very nice in one sense. With the prayers and the purports, for about 12 prayers, we'll actually finish off or we'll understand most of Krishna consciousness. So that's today's topic. It's going to be pretty technical. I'll try to keep it light. As usual, we'll go back and we'll read our Srila Prabhupada's purports. Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki Mukam Karoti Vachanam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarnam Paramananda Madam Shri Chaitaneshwaram. Okay, Hare Krishna. Let me start sharing my screen. First, what we'll do a bit of a recap, and we will use the Gita, Bhagavad Subodhini by His Grace Gaurang Darshan Prabhu. This is a very nice book. In case you do not have, I would request you to get this book. So in the previous chapter, in 4.8, in the chapter we saw the story of Dhruva Maharaj, right? So Dhruva Maharaj trying to get onto his father's lap, being thrown away from it, and he gets so angry as a Kshatriya blood. Then we saw he goes to his mother. His mother says that, "Oh, you know what? I don't think I can help you much. The only person I've helped, I know that who can help you would be the Supreme Lord." So he asks, "Where is the Lord?" He says, "Oh, I have heard that he is somewhere in the forest." And he goes off to Madhuban, the Vraj Bhumi. And there, on the way, he meets Narad Muni. And Narad Muni tests his determination. He asks Dhruva Maharaj, as a young boy, you have a long way to go. Why are you getting angry with such a small thing? Why don't you go back home? And Dhruva Maharaj says, my dear exalted person, if you can help me, please do. Otherwise, you leave me alone. Right? So, seeing this, Narad Muni is very happy. And then Narad Muni actually gives him this Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya mantra, and he tells him, go pray on this, and you will be able to get the Lord. So Dhruva Maharaj then performs very severe austerities and meditations. This is what we heard. So the kind of determination that Dhruva Maharaj had at such a young age, that he wanted nothing else but that Lord will actually satisfy his desire, which his mother, which his father neglected to satisfy. Right? So Uttanapada could not actually satisfy his simple desire of this small boy. So he wanted that, and that was his determination. And whatever was his desire, at, at an age of 5, what will he understand? It's material, spiritual. But he wanted to achieve it. And he knew the right way to achieve was the Supreme Lord, because his mother told so. His mother becomes his Pada Prataksha Guru. We would have discussed that. And Narad Muni said so, because he is his Guru. He gave him the mantra, the Maha Mantra, and he goes there. He starts following severe austerities to an extent that he would take a breath only in about a week's time. That means he takes a breath, he will not do anything else. So before that, we see that how he would eat once a day, then he would eat once in 3 days, he would take only water, and then he takes only breath. Because of which there was a lot of disturbance in the material universe. Okay, things started to get heated up, the world started to tremble, right? So his weight was becoming so much that the earth was becoming shaken to an extent that it would lose out on its orbit. In such cases, what generally happens, so all the demigods know that, okay, it's not a very, pleasant situation. They rush to the Supreme Lord in the Shirodaka ocean. They go to the Shirodaka Shai Vishnu and start praying to him. They pray to him saying that we are fearful, please help us out. Right? So Dhruv Maharaj is praying on one side, and the demigods are praying on the other side to the Supreme Lord. So that's where we stopped. So what we will see today, we will actually see this chapter is called Dhruv Maharaj Returns Home. So his austerities, penance, his prayers are successful or they have completed. So that's what we will see. The first thing is we will see how the Lord actually gives the confidence to the demigods, and then he appears in front of Dhruv Maharaj. And then the most important part, we'll try to do whatever justice we can between shloka 6 to 17. These are Dhruv Maharaj's prayers. Okay, Dhruv Maharaj gets empowered to glorify the Lord. We will see that. And then the Lord actually bestows his benediction on Dhruv Maharaj. He blesses him. Basically, that's what happens. The rest of the chapter, which probably we'll try to cover next Saturday, is on how Dhruv Maharaj feels saddened about how he approached the Lord. Very nice example, which we usually hear. We'll not try to cover it today, but the example of I looked for the pieces of glasses while the gem diamond was right there for me to take. How could I do it? And how the Lord reciprocated to these prayers. And then when Dhruv Maharaj returns home, how wonderfully he was welcomed by everyone. And then there are some stories that will actually finish off how Dhruva Maharaj becomes the ruler, how Uttanapad retires to the forest and Dhruva Maharaj becomes the ruler. That's what we'll see in this chapter. We'll probably try to cover 1 to 26 shlokas. I'm hoping we can cover 1 to 26 shlokas because they're pretty elaborate, and we will try to see how much we can cover. Okay, so we'll see quite a few technical aspects, the tattvas. I try to keep it light, right? I said, but today's chapter is not going to be all Leela chapters, right? So anyway, the story itself is pretty much Leela. So we'll continue. Text 1. Maitri Vacha Ta evam utsanna bhaya urukrami कृतावनामाः प्रयायोस्त्रिविष्टपम् सहस्रशीर्षापि ततो गरुत्मता मधुर्वनं भृत्य दिदीक्षया गतः. Translations and purports by Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The great sage Maitreya told Vidura, when the demigods were thus reassured by the personality of Godhead, they were freed from all fears, and after offering their obeisances, they returned to their heavenly planets. Then the Lord, who is non-different from the Sahasra incarnation, got on the back of Garuda, who carried him to the Madhuvana forest to see his servant, Dhruva. Purport. The word Sahasra refers to the personality of Godhead known as Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. Although the Lord appeared as Kshirodakashaya Vishnu, he has been described here as Sahasra Vishnu because he is non-different from Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. According to Srila Rupa Goswami in the Lagu Bhagavatam, the Sahasra personality of Godhead who appeared at that time was the incarnation known as Prishnikarma. He created the planet known as Dhruvaloka for the habitation of Dhruva Maharaj. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhana Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyo Chapaditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvesesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrita Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Well, so we saw the background. We saw that the demigods were assured by the Lord that don't worry, I'll take care of the situation. And after they were assured, they all went back. Their fear reduced. It's the first thing that we understand, that when we are in the surrender of the Lord, when the Lord is around us, then we are in the situation of abhaya or fearlessness. So when we talk about abhaya charan aravindare, so when we take the shelter of the lotus feet of Abhay Charan, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, right? So we should be fearless of our material situations, and we should be fearful or careful of our spiritual situation, that I do not do mistakes, that I get dropped off. That we should always be. When we are conscious of the fact that I should not miss out this chance to go back home, back to Godhead, then that fear or that care that we have will ensure that we don't do any kind of offenses against the holy name, against the Vaishnavas, against our seva. These aparats, right? So Vaishnava aparat, the seva aparat, or the nam aparat are some things that we should be very, very careful or fearful about. And this fear is not scary, but this fearful is actually caring. So we will be very careful with our spiritual life. Okay. So the demigods went back, and the Lord got on the back of Garudev and he came. Now here, this word Sahasra Shirsha is used. There's a bit of a background to it. So I thought I'll cover it to understand this portion. So some people ask this question of what is, so when we talk about, the Goloka chart, or the Goloka or the creation itself, the three Vishnus, your Karno Daksha Vishnu, your Karbo Daksha Vishnu, and the Kvido Daksha Vishnu, there are devotees who have this question. So let me try to clarify a bit of it. So all the demigods, when they approach their head of demigods, who is your Lord Brahma, not Devendra. Devendra is the ruler or the Indra or the king of the Devas, but even when he's got a trouble, so they go to the creator for all of them, who is your Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma, when he cannot solve it, he obviously goes to Lord Vishnu, who is in Kshirodakashayi uh, form, or Kshirodaksha Vishnu in the Kshirosagar, or the milk ocean. There, the Lord Vishnu uh, usually contacts or talks to the demigods. That's where we have the Purusha Sukta prayers of the demigods and all the glorification of the Lord Vishnu. He is also the one who comes as Paramatma. Now, Lord Vishnu is there in the Kshirosagar ocean. Where is this Kshira ocean? Because if you understand the entire creation, the bubble of the universe, the material universe, is the material world. In that place, there is this ocean, the milk ocean, which is the spiritual world. Actually, see that bit in Bhagavatam. There are other references to it. You can look up for it, wherein it also mentions that this Kshira ocean is in this planet of Dhruvatara. Okay. Now, the background to this is this Dhruva Nakshatra, or the pole star that is mentioned, which is the chandelier that all the other planets go around. This is where your milk ocean is there, and this planet is part of the spiritual world and it's not part of the material world. Okay, if it's getting too technical, don't worry about it. And this place is the Lord himself is there in the Kshira ocean, right? It's in the milk ocean, right? So this place does not have a ruler of this planet yet, as in when we speak about this pastime that is happening. Okay, so there are different names to this planet. I do not have the names of the details of it. The Lord here appears as Prishnigarbha. The details are not elaborated, but this is there written by in Laghu Bhagavatamrita. You want to go ahead and read it, please do that. The Lord, when he appears in front of Dhruva Maharaj, when he's coming on the back of Garda, he's coming as Kshirodaksha Vishnu, but he's coming as the Garbhodakasha Vishnu here, who is also known as the Sahasra Shirsha Purusha. Sahasra Shirsha, thousand-headed, is on the bed of Anantashesh. That's Garbhodakasha Vishnu. That's mentioned here, from whose navel Lord Brahma comes, right? So that's Garbhodakasha Vishnu. And the different avatars, incarnations, the super soul, they all come from Kshirodaksha Vishnu. Getting too technical, ignore it, but the Kshirodaksha Vishnu is in the planet of this Dhruva Nakshatra, and that's the position he gives Dhruva Maharaj. So devotees who have this question, usually, even if you're not attending today's class, the other class, if you want to know, okay, Dhruva Maharaj, he said that he went back in the airplane. Where did he go? If he's gone to the spiritual world, what happens to the Dhruva Nakshatra? Who rules it? He actually goes to Dhruva Nakshatra because that's part of the spiritual world. When everything is annihilated, this place is not annihilated. Okay, that's the background. I thought we'll touch upon it. Now we'll go back and see the interaction between the Lord and his devotee. Okay, so there are a few pieces of the purport that I've highlighted that we'll go deeper into, but lots of huge details are there in the purports. I would request you to all go ahead and read it. So if you remember, Dhruva Maharaj, during his intense prayers, is actually able to see the form of the Lord in his heart. Right? So he's fully seeing that Lord, that Paramatma in the heart. That's the same Paramatma that we just spoke about, as Kshirodaksha Vishnu. Right? So he's seeing the beautiful form of the Lord in his heart. Now what happens? The form of the Lord, which was brilliant like lightning, and in which Dhruva Maharaj in his mature yogic process, was fully absorbed in meditation, all of a sudden disappeared. Thus, Dhruva Maharaj was perturbed and his meditation broke. But as soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally present, just he had, just as he had seen, has been seeing the Lord in his heart. So he's doing closing your, you can imagine the situation, you're closing your eyes, there's a beautiful form of the Lord. He's relishing with Dhruva Maharaj is relishing. Suddenly the Lord disappears. He's shocked. He opens his eyes and he sees that personally, that Lord personally in front of him. That's what happened here to Dhruva Maharaj. And this is very similar to the story of Narad Muni, who is Dhruva Maharaj's guru, right? So if you remember Narad Muni telling his story in Canto 1 to Vyasadev, he said how he became Narada, right? So that story is there. That story, if you remember, Narad Muni, after he had the association of, as the son of maid servant in his previous life, had the association of wonderful Vaishnavas, he started intense prayers, and in his intense prayers, he was able to see the form of the Lord, and suddenly the Lord disappeared. And Narad Muni opened his eyes, the Lord appeared in front of him, and he started praying, and the Lord disappeared again. And then in his next life, he becomes Narad Muni. Dhruva Maharaj similarly goes through an experience which is very similar to that of his guru. So the Lord appears in front of him after disappearing from the heart of Dhruva Maharaj. So that shocker that Dhruva Maharaj had, that his meditation broke, was nullified when he saw the Lord personally. So here, this beautiful shloka from Brahma Samhita, Srila Prabhupada says, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadavekvidayeshu Vilochayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamam Bhajami. The saintly persons who have developed love of Godhead by devotional service always see the Lord's transcendental form of Shama Sundara. This Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena. When your eyes are tainted, the kajal of your eyes is Prema, love for the Lord. When your eyes are filled with the love for the Lord, in bhakti, love is bhakti, right? So you will always see the Lord everywhere. And that's what is happening here, where Dhruva Maharaj, because he had that intense love for the Lord, he could actually see the Lord directly. When Dhruva Maharaj saw his Lord just in front of him, now imagine the situation, right? So you are all, or we are all hankering to have the darshan of the Lord. Many of us, when we go for our yatras, trying to get that one darshan of Radha Madhav, one darshan of Radha Shamsundar, Krishna Balram, which are form of the Lord that we like, Jagannath, Baldev Subhadramai, in Puri, wherever it is, right? So wonderful form of the Lord. We're just hankering to get. And when we get that form, so many devotees, I mean, I may not be the right person to talk about it, but I've seen a lot of wonderful Vaishnavis who stand in front of Radha Madhav or Panchatattva and they're crying in the Mangalarti, seeing the form of the Lord. I may not understand it, but there is something that happens, right? So when there is a Vibhari Vishesha that is being played in Vrindavan, or there is Radha Madhav, the fifth verse of Samsara Dava that's being played, people look at it, eyes, tears flowing from their eyes. How do they express it? Now ask them, what are you feeling? That feeling is not something that's very easily put down in words. And that's probably what Dhruva Maharaj will go through right now, right? So he's greatly agitated. He offered his obeisances and respects. He fell flat like a rod and became absorbed in love of God. Dhruva Maharaj, in his ecstasy, looked upon the Lord as if he was drinking the Lord with his eyes, kissing the lotus feet of the Lord with his mouth, and embracing the Lord with his arms. All these features of Dhruva Maharaj's bodily expressions indicate that upon seeing the Lord face to face, he developed 8 kinds of transcendental ecstasies in his body. So there are a lot of transcendental ecstasies that a person goes through in his body, right? So like the shivering, I think I've got it in. Yeah, this is the bhava stage, right? In manifestation of 8 transcendental symptoms, namely inertness, your body just doesn't move. Respiration, you're sweating. Okay, standing of the hairs on your bodily hairs, your hands hairs, everything was standing. falling of the feeling in the voice, right? So you're just not able to speak, trembling, your body is shivering, paleness in the body, tears in the eyes, and finally, trance. You are just lost. You don't know what else to tell. No, that is the kind of symptoms that the body goes through. You will actually see some of these being explained when we did the third shloka of Canto 1, Chapter 1, Nigama Kalpataru Galitam Phalam. There are a lot of different relationships with the Lord. Okay, not only the five rasas, but there are further rasas that are there, like Bhishmadev having this rasa of chivalry. When they are in the ecstasy of that rasa, they actually go through these eight kinds of transformations in the body. When you're in front of the front of the Lord, front of your Guru, sometimes when Guru Maharaj looks at your face and he's talking to you, you're like, wow, he's actually addressing me. That kind of a situation. We may not have the experience of, I may not be able to explain the experience that I've had with the Lord, but when it comes to your spiritual master, sometimes you actually go through that okay, your body is shivering, your Guru is talking to you, kind of a situation. Personally, I've had that kind of an experience when Guru Maharaj looked at me and said something. I was like, wow, my Guru is talking to me, giving me instructions. That's a very nice feeling to have. And Guru Maharaj is actually going through this. We'll continue. Although Dhruva Maharaj was a small boy, he wanted to offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in suitable language. But because he was inexperienced, he could not adjust himself immediately. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, being situated in everyone's heart, could understand Dhruva Maharaj's awkward position. Right? So, right. So, one of the things, like Srila Prabhupada connects it very nicely. In the previous shloka, he tells that, one of the things when he sees the Lord, he loses his ability to express what's going through his mind. But the Lord, from his heart, he could understand, right? So the Lord is in everyone's heart. So he could understand Dhruva Maharaj's position. And out of his causeless mercy, the Lord touched his conscience to the forehead of Dhruva Maharaj, who stood before him with folded hands. Right? So Dhruva Maharaj paid obeisances, folded hands. He's standing in front of the Lord. He wants to speak, but he doesn't know what to speak. So the Lord takes his Panchajanya conscience, puts it on the forehead of Dhruva Maharaj, showing his mercy, enabling Dhruva Maharaj to speak. Srila Prabhupada writes, the personality of Godhead being situated in everyone's heart specifically gives a devotee intelligence to describe him. It is therefore understood that when a devotee writes or speaks about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his words are dictated by the Lord from within. Right? So this is for very exalted devotees. It may not be in everyone's situation, but when they are trying to glorify the Lord, when they're trying to speak about the Lord, some devotees, I was talking to one of very, very senior Vaishnava from ISKCON Juhu, the Puchari there, 30 plus years of serving the lordships there. I told many times, Prabhu, I just go to the class and I start speaking, and uh, I just get the flow. It's what you're prepared versus what you're speaking. Sometimes the leelas come, sometimes the tattvas come. Sometimes it just goes through the flow. Right? So sometimes they are dictated by the Lord. Srila Prabhupada actually mentions, right? So Srila Prabhupada used to read his own books, read Srimad Bhagavatam, read Chaitanya Charitamrita, and when his disciples would ask him, Prabhupada, but you have written these books. Why are you reading the purports? So Srila Prabhupada would mention that these are not written by me, these are dictated by the Lord. I'm just an instrument. So I'm reading it because I want to understand, I want to relish it as well. There's so much of nectar in these books. So all of us, in some form or other, should have been involved in book distribution. Yesterday, we have been trying to give out Srila Prabhupada's books. And one of the most important instruction of Srila Prabhupada was that you don't only give out the books, you yourself read these books, because Srila Prabhupada has given us this opportunity, given us this wonderful mercy. So please do read Srila Prabhupada's books and every line of the purport. I know when I was reading, I was thinking, Shri Hari Prabhu asked me to cover 50% of the chapter. I was like, how will I cover? Each purport is so big and so much of detail is there in the purports. Anyways, so this Lord being situated in the heart, we'll actually see that in another shloka in a bit. So we'll come there. And once the conch shell is put on the forehead, Dhruva Maharaj was able to express the glories of the Lord, right? So he was able to glorify the Lord. We'll come to that. At that time, Dhruva Maharaj became perfectly aware of the Vedic conclusions and understood the absolute truth and his relationship with all living entities. In accordance with the line of devotional service to the Supreme Lord, whose fame is widespread, Dhruva, who in the future would receive a planet which would never be annihilated, even during the time of dissolution, offered his deliberate and conclusive prayers. So this Dhruva Maharaj receiving a planet, we already discussed about it. The planet is not new. The planet existed, Dhruva Maharaj gets that planet. What happens when the Lord places his conch shell on Dhruva Maharaj's head is that he becomes aware of all Vedic conclusions. So if you, there's a very nice piece in the purport here, so I've highlighted. We will read this because this is the beginning of the philosophies that we will be discussing. The example of Dhruva Maharaj is that he engaged himself in devotional service to the Lord according to the order of his spiritual master. Narad Muni, I think the word Narada is missing there. As a result of his rendering such devotional service with great determination and austerity, I think it's moved, the personality of God had personally manifested himself before him. Dhruva was only a child. He wanted to offer nice prayers to the Lord, but because he lacked sufficient knowledge, he hesitated. But by the mercy of the Lord, as soon as the Lord's conscience touched his forehead, he became completely aware of the Vedic conclusions. That conclusion is based on proper understanding of the difference between the Jiva and Paramatma, the individual soul and the super soul. The individual soul is forever a servant of the super soul, and therefore his relationship with the super soul is to offer service. This is called Bhakti Yoga or Bhakti Bhava. So this is your Bhakti. If someone asks you, very simple situation. Jiva Swarupaya Nitya Krishna Das. The individual soul is Nitya, forever a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this can be understood by the service that is rendered with great determination in the words, or great faith in the words of the spiritual master. That's all. It's very, very simple. I hear from my spiritual master, I take his words as my life and soul. I follow it with great determination, great sincerity, great seriousness, and very steadily I follow it. Then I am in my Nitya position or my Bhakti position of whatever being, always being the servant of the servant of the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Simple. Your one-line statement of what is Bhakti is this, right? So that's given here very nicely. So anyone says, remember this shloka, remember this part of the purport, 4.9.5, and you should be able to explain anyone. Dhruva Maharaj attained this perfection not by acting hastily, but by patiently executing the order of his spiritual master. And therefore, he became so successful that he saw the Lord face to face. So don't come back to your spiritual authorities saying that, oh, 6 months I've been chanting 16 rounds, Prabhu, still, that Bhava is not coming. 6 months Dhruva Maharaj followed, not for us, right? So very patiently we need to execute. We should be determined and we should be having that firm faith that it will definitely work. This process is infallible, right? This process will not make, it's not a loss, right? So with great faith, when we actually follow it, then we will be successful. We'll be successful that we can see the Lord face to face. So when you start planning your shlokas as to when I see the Lord face to face, what will I tell him? What all will I tell him? And let's see what Dhruva Maharaj is telling. From here on, we'll actually see the Dhruva Maharaj prayers. Like I said, there are 12 prayers. We'll go through these prayers one by one as much as possible, because this is a summary study of whatever we have read in Bhagavad Gita, because this is in Bhagavad Gita, we have seen the philosophical aspects. So this is there in Bhagavad Gita and some parts of Bhagavatam, of course. Okay. So Dhruva Maharaj said, my dear Lord, you are all powerful. After entering within me, you have enlivened all my sleeping senses. My hands, legs, ears, touch sensation, life force, and especially my power to speech. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you. First thing, as soon as the Lord puts the conscience, he's enlivened, right? So he wakes up. So, like Srila Prabhupada mentions here, right? So, Jiva Jago, Gora Chandra Pole. How long will you sleep in the lap of Maya? Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, wake up, wake up. Gaur Chandra or Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is calling in this Jiva, the human form of life that you have got. It is unfortunate if you don't actually enable your Krishna consciousness. It's useless to have obtained a human form if you live a life of that of dogs and cats, trying to do only sense enjoyment, right? So wake up to the reality. Okay, that's what it is saying here. Okay, so as soon this is what I was just mentioning. Right? So as soon as Dhruva Maharaj wakes up, he felt the impetus to glorify the Lord according to the Vedic conclusions. A mundane person cannot offer any prayers to or glorify the personality of Godhead because he has no realization of the Vedic conclusions. So Dhruva Maharaj understood. So he was able to glorify. It's very difficult for us. So what do we do? Either we say that I'm also elevated, I will also glorify, or we say that I'm a mundane person, I will not be able to glorify. We, as sadhana bhaktas, should have a very simple, easy process. All we need to do is glorify the Lord as glorified by these personalities, as glorified by Dhruva Maharaj in these prayers, as glorified by all the other Vaishnavacharyas. So many wonderful prayers are there by all the Vaishnavacharyas. You go there, stand in front of the Lord and say that, Are, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying this, Narottam Das Thakur is saying this, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is saying this, Srila Prabhupada is saying this. I am just repeating that. And that is our perfection. We don't have to reinvent. We don't need to compose prayers for the Lord if we don't know, because Vedically approved, Shastrically approved prayers are there. All we need to do is just follow them. And then we achieve whatever success that we need. Will we ever be able to glorify the Lord ourselves? I don't know. We should be able to. That day will also come. Okay. Dhruva Maharaj continues, My Lord, you are the Supreme One, but by your different energies, you appear differently in the spiritual and the material worlds. You create the total energy of the material world by your external potency, and after creation, you enter within the material world as the super soul. You are the supreme person, and through the temporary modes of material nature, you create varieties of manifestation. Just as fire entering into wood of different shapes burns brilliantly in different varieties. So let's start. Dhruva Maharaj, after he says that he's woken up, his first thing is he talks about the creation. Oh, my dear Lord, you are the energetic. From you, all the energies come. So with your energies, you take care in the material world. Your material energy takes care of it. So you create your mayas, you create your shaktis. He is the Shaktiman. When we talk about energy and energetic is the Shaktiman, energies are the Shaktis. So your Shakti is running this entire world. And just to ensure that the functioning of the material world is also working fine, so you enter them as your super soul. Within each of the universe, the super soul is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Within each of the living entities, the super soul is Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. Okay? Without these, the Vishnu forms of the Lord, the material world cannot function, cannot exist. This entire material, okay, through the material modes of nature. Okay, so the three modes, Sattvagun, Rajagun, and Tamogun, you create these material modes, and you are aloof from them. You are not part of the material worlds. Okay, so you spread over all the cosmic energies by your uh, energies, which is that's what we discussed. So the Lord is the energetic, and everything else is done by his energies. Okay, that's the first part of the prayer. Let's go on. Oh my Lord, Lord Brahma is fully surrendered unto you. In the beginning, you gave him knowledge, and thus he could see and understand the entire universe. Just as a person awakens from sleep and visualizes his immediate duties, you are the only shelter of all persons who desire liberation. And you are the friend of all who are distressed. How therefore can a learned person who has perfect knowledge ever forget? So now that the creation is done, you have personalities who are taking care of the creation. So firstly, you have Lord Brahma, who is your servant, right? So who is your so Lord Brahma? We are in the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. He is our spiritual authority, and he is taking his authority is Lord Krishna himself, right? So we saw that in first canto. Deni Brahma Hridaya Adikavi, the Adikavi, Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu, actually reveals this knowledge in the heart of Brahmaji, right? So after that, if you remember, Brahmaji goes down the stem, he hears the tapa, 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 he comes back, he meditates, then he gets the power to create the functionings of this universe. So that's what Brahmaji did. So he says, you gave that power, you gave that intelligence, you gave that knowledge to Lord Brahma. Like a sleeping person wakes up, he started doing the duties. So in the Bhagavad Gita, what does it say? The Lord does anyone who's constantly engaged in this devotional service, he gives them the intelligence. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayan. That's the shloka here, right? So Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam. Constantly one who is engaged in devotional service. That's what is a requirement for all of us, right? So we also are supposed to do Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam, with great love and affection. I need to worship the Lord. What does the Lord do? Dadami buddhi yogam tam. The Lord says, Dadami buddhi yogam tam. I give them the buddhi or the intelligence, using which what will they? They make further progress. Enamam upayantite, by which they make progress so much that they actually achieve my abode. They actually come back to me. Right? So you gave that intelligence to Brahmaji. Okay. The Lord in this shloka is also addressed as Arth Bandhu, one who is friend of the distress, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. After many, many births of execution, Bhunam Janma Namanti Jnanavanma Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. Such a Mahatma is very, very rare. After many, many, many births, he actually understands me that I am the right person for him to worship, and that person becomes my friend. So he is friend of the distress. He is the caretaker of all of us. Sudam Sarvabhutanam. He is the well-wisher of everyone. Persons who worship you simply for sense gratification of this bag of skin are certainly influenced by your illusory energy. In spite of having you, who are like a desire tree and are the cause of liberation from birth and death, foolish persons such as me desire benediction from you for sense gratification, which is available even for those who live in hellish conditions. Right? First creation, then Brahmaji comes, Brahmaji starts creating, and the energies are there, the good and the bad, right? So spiritual and the material energies. So a person who is influenced by the illusory energy of the Mahamaya potency of the Lord, he is acting on sense gratification level. Okay, we are also there. Sometimes sense gratification, sometimes spiritual. No, that's what we try to we try to balance it. But person who does this, even the cats and dogs and people living in the hellish planet have this sense gratification, which is temporary, which causes more distress. We have seen all this in Bhagavad Gita, right? So, uh, if you look at happiness, how much happiness and for how long, right? So, how much happiness? Very, very minimal. To a simple example, right? All of us would have gone through it, right? So, to get good marks in our 10th or in our 12th or whatever it is, right? So, we have put an effort for the entire 10th standard. Right after 9th standard, no summer vacations. 10th standard started, coaching classes, tuition classes. That did this, everything we did. 10th, we got good marks. Appa, now I have got good marks. I've got into a very nice college. Then again started that happiness stayed for probably that month or 2 months. Again started your 11th standard, 12th standard, even bigger problem, right? So we are going from one happiness to another happiness. In the name of happiness, we are having a lot more suffering in between, right? So our happiness is short-lived, our happiness is, minimal, while the Brahmananda is a lot more. We'll actually see that. Okay. So why should a person try to get happiness which are even available for the cats and dogs, hawks and dogs in this case, Srila Prabhupada says. Okay, so the word, my lord, the transcendental bliss derived from meditating upon your lotus feet or hearing about your glories from pure devotees is so unlimited that is far beyond the stage of Brahmananda, wherein one thinks himself merged in the impersonal Brahman as one with the Supreme. Since Brahmananda is also defeated by the transcendental bliss derived from devotional service, then what to speak of the temporary blissfulness of elevating oneself to the heavenly planets, which is ended by the separating sword of time. Although one may be elevated to the heavenly planets, he falls down in due course of time. So multiple pieces here. Let me try to give you how I understand. So in the previous shloka, we saw how, your happiness, they are foolish. They are trying to do sense enjoyment. They should do something better. So if they do something better, they actually can go even up to the planets, higher planetary systems. But even in higher planetary systems, their duration of life is very minimal. Brahma Bhavana Loka Punaravartin Arjuna, as soon as your pious credits end, your good karma ends, you're thrown away from the heavenly planets. Punaravartino, you'll fall down again. Okay, here. So, okay, I will go beyond heavenly planets. I'll go beyond Swarga, beyond this, beyond that. I can go all the way to Brahman and Brahman. So, Brahman realization I get. What do I have in Brahman realization? I have Sat and Chit. Chit to a fair extent, Sat is definitely there. That means Satchit Ananda, Satchit Ananda. My Ananda is still not fully there. What do I have? I have no Nirananda. Okay, Nirananda is lack of happiness. I don't have no Nirananda in this material world. It is Achat, Asat, Achat, and Nirananda. But in Brahman, you don't have Nirananda. That means you don't have unhappiness. Is that a position that we want? There you have, peace. I am Shanta. Shanti I will get. Okay. And people are very happy because this world is so Ashanti, filled with so much of agitation, that I want peace. But for a devotee, peace is not sufficient. What does he need? He needs ananda, bliss, even more. So the way this is compared, like a drop of water in an ocean is a kind of happiness that we can get in the material world, in earthly planets. Imagine this happiness increases one day, one year here is one day in the Swargaloka planets, right? So we have seen that, or 6 months is 12 hours for them, or daytime. We have discussed this, I think, in the previous or previous to previous class here, right? So there, I mean, I have 100 years here is one drop, 100 years there might be one glass of water. Okay. Yeah. Brahmananda is thousands and millions of times compared to that of what we can see in heavens. And that one, that happiness is as much as what the water that can be held in the hoof print of a calf. Like a calf, makes a hole in the earth and you fill it with water. That's the amount of happiness that you get. Compared to that, the spiritual happiness that you get in the Vaikuntha planets, in the Goloka planets, is an ocean. Now, using a cup of water, a glass of water, a drop of water, imagine how I will calculate the water that's available in an ocean. Uncomparable, right? So you don't have any comparison scale to compare, right? So that's what you get there so Dhruv Maharaj here is saying that people who hanker or go, the impersonalists who even go to Brahman, the amount of bliss or happiness that they can get is uh, very tucha, very insignificant. Okay, that's what is mentioned here. I didn't go into the details, but when you pray to the demigods, Hanti Deva Vrata Devan, Petrananti Petrata, you pray to the Devas, you go to the Deva planets, you go to pray to the Pitros, you go there. All the happiness is all that you can get is very, very minimal. And Shine Punya, Martilokam Vishanti. After your Punya is ended, you will actually come back to this Martiloka. But when you go to the spiritual planet, the word Patatam Vimanat, as are very signal, Vimanam is the airplane. Okay, those who are elevated to the heavenly planets are like that of getting into the airplanes where the fuel runs out, you have to land. Okay. So Dhruv Maharaj continued, "O unlimited Lord, kindly bless me so that I may associate with great devotees who engage in your transcendental loving service constantly." By the process of devotional service, I shall surely be able to cross the nascent of ocean of material existence, which is filled with the waves of blazing fire-like dangers. It will be very easy for me. So I'm becoming mad to hear about your transcendental qualities and pastimes, which are eternally existent. Now, Dhruv Maharaj is going behind, right? So, if you have made your notes, you will understand that. First creation, then Brahmaji's creation, then how people get their karma, go to higher planetary systems, even up to Brahman. Now, if I have to cross beyond, go to the transcendental, eternal abode of loving service to the Lord, then I need to associate with great devotees. All of us know this, right? So with our sadhana, the most important part is the devotee association. So Dhruv Maharaj is also praying for getting association of such wonderful Vaishnavas. How are they? How do you choose that Vaishnava? Those are the people who are engaged in your transcendental loving service constantly. This reminds of, this nice pastime with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? So there were devotees who would walk all the way from Bengal to Jagannath Puri to have darshan of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during the Rath Yatra, where they will also have the darshan of Lord Jagannath, who is, blissful. Who is a Vaishnava? Who should I associate with? So Mahaprabhu says, anyone who chants the Hare Krishna mantra, he is a Vaishnava. You should take his association. So they are all very happy. They are associating with Vaishnavas, right? So after this, they come back next year. And next year, they ask Mahaprabhu the same question. Who is a very nice devotee? Who is a nice Vaishnava? Who should we take association of? Because we are now today chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. So Mahaprabhu replies, anyone who always chants the Hare Krishna mantra, who is constantly chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, he is the person you should take association of. Okay, Satatam Kirtiyantama. Right? So that's the kind of person that you should take association of. They are the great devotees. So these people are very happy. So now they are associating with wonderful Vaishnavas who are constantly chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and slowly you also become uh, Vaishnava who is constantly or always chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Then next year they come. Now that we are constantly chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, let's ask Mahaprabhu, what is the kind of people that we should take association of? Mahaprabhu says, you take association of that person, looking at whom you immediately or everyone immediately starts chanting Hare Krishna mantra. Looking at whom you want to do devotional service. That's the kind of person you should associate with. Now look at Srila Prabhupada, look at the spiritual masters, wonderful Vaishnavas. When you look at them, when you associate with them, there is no way we will be able to think of anything material because they are doing such wonderful service. Can I do this? Can I do this for my Guru? Can I do this for Srila Prabhupada? Right? That enthusiasm is automatically created. They are the kind of Vaishnavas that you should constantly associate with or take their association in the form of Vani, in the form of instructions. Don't have to fall on your guru to get his association. Don't have to do Vapu Seva. Oh, I missed associating with Srila Prabhupada. I missed associating with so many Vaishnavas of Srila Prabhupada, the disciples, right? So, no, no, no. They all have given us enough instructions, enough Vani. Associate with them. Then, your transcendental loving service becomes constant and consistent. I think I gave this example in one of the classes recently about how Banu Maharaj introduction, you go to Banu Maharaj site where I had the fortune of actually introducing him in Jagannath Mandir. And when he was reading his profile, he saw that he says that his devotional service is sincere and steady. Right? One of them added, is this word steady was always, we used to always say, your devotional service should be very sincere. You should do it sincerely for the Lord. You should be very steady in your devotional service. And that steadiness can happen when you are in association of the devotees. When you are among the devotees, they will encourage you, force you to actually wake up for Mangalarti, hear the Bhagavatam class, to participate in the Kirtan, do prasadam service before you do service. All that. So being in association of devotees, you will not deviate much. You don't have time to see what is the cricket score, what is happening, who is the political winner. You don't have time for this. Your devotees keep you transcendently engaged. Okay, and like Dhruva Maharaj is saying, we become more and more eager. He becomes mad to hear of the transcendental qualities and the pastimes of the Lord. There are very nice parts of the purport. I've covered the summary. Please read the purports because there's no way we can do enough justice just reading this. Oh Lord, in fact, in one of the things about Srila Prabhupada's book distribution, and glories of book distribution, I was reading. So Srila Prabhupada in one of the places mentions, how much will you talk to people and encourage them to follow the spiritual life? Please land my books on their laps. Their spiritual life will take a big, leap or jump, right? So we personally, even hearing personally, we will not be able to progress as much as we can progress when we are reading the books and purports of Srila Prabhupada. So please don't miss the purports. Um, I'm just giving you a glimpse of it as a service, but we have so much more nectar that's there in the purports of Srila Prabhupada. O Lord, who have a navel? O Lord, who have a lotus navel. If a person happens to associate with a devotee whose heart always hankers after your lotus feet, seeking always their fragrance, he is never attached to the material body or in a bodily relationship to offsprings, friends, home, wealth, and wife, which are very, very dear to materialistic persons. Indeed, he does not care for them. Okay, we should do our responsibilities towards our offsprings, friends, home, wealth, and family, but we should not be attached to them, attracted by them, that we stay back in this body, right? So this, now we are talking about associating with devotees. We have come there, and the person who associates, what happens to him? He actually starts relishing, and his hankering and lamentation for material things goes away, and he actually becomes distress free, and his happiness increases in service of the Lord. This is the special advantage of being a devotee. My dear Lord, O Supreme Unborn, I know that the different varieties of living entities such as animals, birds, trees, reptiles, demigods, and human beings are spread throughout the universe, which is caused by the total material energy. And I know that they are sometimes manifest and sometimes unmanifest, but I have never experienced the supreme form I behold as I see you now. Now, all kinds of methods of theorizing have come to an end. Vedic conclusions, he understood everything. So he knew that there are 84 species of life, there's so many things, and there are so many forms of the Lord that he's heard of, he's imagined, but there is nothing that compares when he sees the Supreme Lord himself, right? So as soon as he sees the Lord, he understands, he just can't really do anything but release the form of the Lord. And the Lord himself says, Bhaktya ma abhijanati, only with bhakti you will understand the Lord as he is. No amount of speculation, no amount of jnana, no amount of yogic processes will actually give you this understanding. The Lord enables you when you are in the process of bhakti. Moving on, my dear Lord, at the end of each millennium, the Supreme Personality of God, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, dissolves everything manifested within the universe into his belly. He lies down on the lap of Sheshanag. From his navel sprouts a golden lotus stem, golden lotus flower on his stem, and on that lotus, Lord Brahma is created. I can understand that you are the same Supreme Lord. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Right, so initially itself we saw that when the Lord appeared, he came as a Srisha Purusha, the Garbhodaksha Vishnu, even though the prayers were done on Kiyodaksha Vishnu, indicating that they were non-different. So Dhruva Maharaj is actually glorifying this form of the Lord. Right, so he's actually talking about, so now the creation is done, association is done, going back to Godhead is there. What happens if you stay here? So there is going to be annihilation after, every night of every day of Brahma is over, every night of Brahma there's partial annihilation, everything goes to the body of Garbhodaksha Vishnu, onto his belly, and again Brahmaji this next day, right? So night he sleeps, everything is inert. Next day, he again starts creating from his, Brahmaji starts creating. So Brahmaji is again coming out from the stem. Yasmin Vignati Sarvam Vignatam Bhavati, knowing which everything that you need to know is known. So Dhruv Maharaj knows all these things, right? So he's able to glorify the Lord using all these words. My Lord, by your unbroken transcendental glance, you are the supreme witness of all stages of intellectual activities. You are eternally liberated. Your existence is situated in pure goodness, and you are existent in the super soul without change. You are the original personality of Godhead, full with six opulences, and you are eternally the master of the three modes of material nature. Thus, you are always different from the ordinary living entities. As Lord Vishnu, you maintain all the affairs of the entire universe, and yet you stand aloof and are the enjoyer of the results of all sacrifices. Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwar. He is the Bhokta, or the enjoyer of all the sacrifices, right? Of all the yajnas and tapas. He is the one who is actually the benefactor or benedictor. So now what is the next topic? Next topic is talking about the Lord's position, right? So the three modes of material nature, he's beyond it. He's created all these things. And in as the master of the mode of goodness, he actually takes care of maintaining the universe, right? He is that supreme Lord. My dear Lord, in your impersonal manifestation of Brahman, there are always two opposing elements, knowledge and ignorance. Your multi energies are constantly manifest, but the impersonal Brahman, which is undivided, original, changeless, unlimited, and blissful, is the cause of the material manifestation. Because you are the same impersonal Brahman, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Beyond Garbhodaksha Vishnu, he is going on to the Brahman place where the Lord's energy is there. So you understand this, the effulgence of the Lord. So that's where Brahman comes into picture. In this Brahman is actually the cause for the rest of the material universe. So Brahman is the beginning point for the spiritual world, and Brahman is the cause for the material universe. There's a very nice description here by Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakura that this impersonal feature or Brahman manifestation of the Supreme Lord is meant for persons who are essentially very advanced but still not able to understand the personal feature or variegatedness of the spiritual world. Such devotees are known as Jnana Mishra Bhaktas. Right? So you're trying to serve the Lord, but you don't understand all the varieties. The Lord can have varieties. So, one of the theories or one of the arguments of the impersonalists is, because there is so much variety, because there is old age, there is sweet, there is sour, there is wife, there is husband, there is greenery, there is desert. Because of this variety only, there's so much of trouble. If I had a place which had none of these varieties, then that is peaceful. Impersonal Brahman realization. So they stick to that non-variegatedness understanding of the Lord. But the Lord loves varieties. So that's why we say that, okay, you know what? Never talk wrong about any other Vaishnavas, never talk wrong about any other, bona fide sampradayas that are there, even worshipping of demigods, because the Lord likes these varieties. He's created it. And this is for people who are not fortunate or advanced enough to come to the Lord. For them, we need to not find faults, but rather we should actually bring them to Krishna consciousness, give them this knowledge. That is our responsibility, not that we say there are these, this is useless case. Oh, this one they are always doing wrong. Or they are doing this religion, no, they are useless. No, they are atheists. Lord even likes them, right? So Lord even feeds the atheist. He doesn't stop feeding them. So who are we to judge? So that is our understanding. That's how we should understand when we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Saying, how do I act on this knowledge? O Lord, O Supreme Lord, my Lord, O Supreme Lord, you are the supreme personified form of all benediction. Therefore, for one who abides in your devotional service with no other desire, worshipping your lotus feet is better than becoming king and lording it over the kingdom. That is the benediction of worshipping your lotus feet. To ignorant devotees like me, you are the costless, merciful maintainer, just like a cow who takes care of a newly born calf by supplying milk and giving it protection from even beyond Brahman realization is obviously the realization of serving the Lord very sweetly. Therefore, one who abides by your devotional service. God, I even get the position of a king of all the kingdoms. It is useless for me unless I get the lotus feet of you, my dear Lord. Okay, only ignorant people like me still think that I need something in this material world. I need this position, I need this promotion, I need this bigger house, I need this, I need that. Only because of my ignorance, oh my merciful Lord, You are so wonderful, you are so merciful that you have given me Krishna consciousness, you have given me these wonderful devotee association, you have given me Srila Prabhupada. Now, if I don't use them, I'm so unfortunate, I'm so fallen. So now Dhruva Maharaj is kind of concluding his prayers. He's saying that by devotional service to you, we actually will get elevated to the spiritual world. So you saw there is a very, very nice flow. And whatever we have learned in Krishna consciousness, right from creation to devotional service being the topmost, everything is covered in a very sequential, very nice way by Dhruva Maharaj. So he concludes this ahetuki apratihata ye atma suprasidati, right? So without unmotivated, undiverted devotional service to the Lord, we achieve perfection. Okay, so Dhruva Maharaj prayers end with that. We have another 8 minutes. We can try to cover a few more shlokas, which actually set up the context for the next session, because the devotee who has to cover next session might have 40 plus shlokas. If we stop here, that will be very difficult to cover. So the great sage Maitreya continued, my dear Vidura, when Dhruva Maharaj, who had good intentions in his heart, finished his prayers, the Supreme Personality of Godhead was very kind to, who is very kind to his devotees and servant, congratulated him, speaking as follows. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Vedaham te Vyavasitam Hridi Rajanya Balaka Tat Prayachami Bhadram te Durapam Api Suvrata. The person of God had said, my dear Dhruva, son of the king, you have executed pious vows, and I also know the desire within your heart. Although your desire is very ambitious and very difficult to fulfill, I shall favor you with its fulfillment. All good fortune unto you. So if you remember, Dhruva Maharaj came with this desire that I should have a kingdom greater than that of my grandfather, who was Swayambhu Manu himself, right? So great grandfather was Lord Brahma. He wanted something bigger than Lord Brahma. Okay, so what would he get with the material creation? Everything right from Satyaloka is created by Brahma. What will Dhruva Maharaj get? No, Dhruva Maharaj sees the Lord and he understands, Arre, people like me are fallen and we have material desires. I don't want any of this, my Lord. I want only your spiritual desire. So the Lord says that I understand your desire because I am in your heart. As Paramatma is inside all our hearts. However wonderfully we decorate ourselves as devotees, He knows us inside out. So please understand, whatever is your desire in the heart, whatever are those anarthas in your heart, He actually knows it perfectly well. Those times when you use your mobile phone without anyone's knowledge, those scoldings that you do to people behind their backs without anyone's knowledge, the Lord knows them perfectly well. Please don't do it. Or pray to the Lord that I have such a such, I'm fallen, I'm not able to control this. Please help me. You always go to Balramji, who gives us the strength, the Bala, Nityanand Prabhu, who is represents Balramji, Nityanand Prabhu. All these personalities who give us strength are represented by our spiritual master. Please understand that. Okay, so Dhruva Maharaj was assured by the Lord. The Lord says, you will not be bereft of my love. You have asked for something material, but do not be worried because you feel that your desire is childish. You have asked for material desires. Do not worry. You will still have my love. Somewhere I lost. Okay. The Supreme Personality of God continued, my dear Dhruva, I shall award you the glowing planet known as Pole Star, which will continue to exist even after the dissolution at the end of the millennium. No one has ever ruled this planet, which is surrounded by all the solar systems, planets, and stars. All the luminaries in the sky circumambulate this planet just as bulls tread around a central pole for the purpose of crushing grains. Keeping the pole star to their right, all the stars inhabited by great sages like Dharma, Agni, Kashyapa, and Shukra circumambulate this planet, which continues to exist even after the dissolution of all other planets. So he had his material desire to have a kingdom greater than that of Lord Brahma. So the Lord assures him that you will actually get the pole star. No one has ever ruled it. Like I said, that the pole star was not created for Brahma. Dhruvaloka is not created for Dhruva, but Dhruvaloka existed. Dhruva becomes its ruler. And Dhruvaloka is part of the spiritual realm because it's greater than that of Lord Brahma, this planet, which is the entire material realm. Okay, so that's the background story. We started with that background story, so I'll not elaborate. So then the Lord actually tells him how the future will look after your father goes to the forest and award you the rule of kingdom. You will rule continuously for the entire continuously the entire world for 36,000 years, and all your senses will continue to be as strong as they are now. You will never become old. As they are now, your senses are now purified because the Lord touched Dhruva with his conscience. Not that his senses were like that of a 5-year-old boy. Please understand, when they are strong, meaning your senses are strong, not bodily structure. So Dhruva Maharaj will actually, you will see that in the coming shlokas, and then, in fact, in the next chapter, you will see all this. His father will retire, give the kingdom to Dhruva Maharaj, and he will rule for 36,000 years, wonderfully following the dharma and ensuring that every citizen of us will actually get a chance to go back to Godhead. The Lord continues, sometimes in the future, your brother Uttama will go hunting into the forest, and while absorbed in hunting, he will be killed. He'll be killed by the yakshas. There's a very nice pastime of Yaksha and Dhruva Maharaj, the conversation, and how there are a lot of personalities, including Swayambhu Manu himself, who come and talk to Dhruva. You know, that episode is very nice, very different kind of learning you will have that. Uttama will get killed, and his stepmother, who is Suruchi, who you will hear about how she welcomed Dhruva Maharaj in the next class. So Suruchi also feels very sad that Uttama, because her son, very dear, right? So that's why she threw away Dhruva Maharaj in the first place. So Uttama was killed by the Yaksha, so she goes to the forest and she also gets killed by the forest fire. In the heart of all sacrifices, you will be able to perform many great sacrifices and give great charities. In this way, you will be able to enjoy the blessings of material happiness in this world, and at the time of your death, you will be able to remember me. The Lord's blessing or assurance is that you will be able to remember me at the time of death, because you will continue to do all your dharma or duties very nicely. One of the perfect duties of a grihastha is to give in charity. The pursuit of God, continued, my dear Dhruva, after your material life in this body will go, you will go to my planet, which is always heard obeisances by the residents of all other planetary systems. It is situated above the planets of the 7 rishis, and having gone there, you will never have to come back to this material world. So this answer is something that we started off the class with. So Dhruva Maharaj will remain in the Vaikuntha Loka, in the Dhruva Loka. So that's part of the spiritual world, and Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says that that planet is eternal. Okay, rushed through the last part, but last part is again story kind. So you can please go ahead and read this back. Shloka 26 onwards. So Shri Prabhu, if you can please inform the next speaker to actually start from 26, where Maitreya Muni will actually start talking about how Dhruva Maharaj responds to the Lord's blessings, and then he goes back to the planet. So please inform that. So I will stop here. We are exactly on time. Probably if anyone has any comment or one question, I will probably take. Otherwise, we can stop here.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Very, of course, a doubt. The Dhruva Maharaja was on planet Earth when when he meditated and he saw Vishnu, and when after leaving his body, he has been awarded the privilege to reach Dhruva planet,
Correct.
which was always existing, eternally existing.
Correct.
So who are the other residents of Dhruva? Any idea of now when he goes there, when he has gone there, how is he living? Like, is he a king or what is he there?
Nice question, Mataji. So the answer is Dhruva planet or this Dhruva Loka is part of the spiritual world, where you have Kshirodaksha Vishnu also existing. Kshirodaksha Vishnu is part of the spiritual realm. So all those people who are serving Kshirodaksha Vishnu are residents there.
Okay.
Right? So he becomes the ruler or the dharma or the upkeeper of that planet. So, and he continues to serve the Lord. Right? So he's got the darshan of the Lord. He continues to serve the Lord there.
So kind, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Prabhuji, just one small question, okay? Prabhuji, the pole star that we see from the earth, is that the same as the Dhruva Tara where King Dhruva is in the spiritual world?
Yes, that's what I've heard, Mataji. So the star that we see, the brightest star in the sky is called the pole star, and that's how it is mentioned. And the coordinates are given, how the different, the Saptarishi stars, how are they connected to the pole star? Those are mentioned in the spiritual scriptures, and they are also tying up with the material zodiacs that are there. The Big Dipper, and I think some of them are there in the different parts of the purports or different. This one, I'm just trying to see. I had some notes about it myself when I was reading this. So the Ursa Major in the Vedic astronomy, URSA, right? So that actually ties to this. So back to your question. So is that the same thing that we see? I've heard it as yes, that's the same thing. Okay, from whatever authorities. So we can pray there. I mean, Chara is one of the things that is prayed to, where you can actually have the Lord. And when you go to the higher planetary systems, right? So when you have access, if at all, we should not pray for it, but just in case we go into the higher planetary system, then we actually have access to the Lord there. Difficult, but yes, we do have access.
Okay. So we can see spiritual world through earth also.
We
I mean, we
don't
can see.
relish it. We
Ah,
don't realize it, right? So we just see it as one of the cosmic entities, one of the pieces there. We don't see it as a spiritual world. In fact, we have the darshan of the spiritual world. We just don't have the eyes to see it there.
okay. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, is
Yes, Hare
it
Krishna.
way beyond the sun? The sun is within this universe, right? Only after
Yeah, it's beyond the sun.
breaking. Yeah.
It's beyond the sun. There are a lot
Okay.
of calculations that are there. Again, if you look at the Goloka chart, you will actually see the positioning of all this. Where would the
Mm.
Surya Loka fall? Where would the Dhruva Loka fall and all that? Dhruva Loka is
Mm.
further more because all the planetary systems are going around it, and this is stable. So this is one of the things that does not rotate or revolve, right? So it stays there, and everything else is revolving. It's like a chandelier. That example is always given. And we'll all hope, right? So someday we'll actually have a temple of Vedic planetarium that we can go and visit. I think they're trying to replicate this model, so we'll be able to see that there.
Okay, planets is a term which is used for the universes which are in the material world. Is it like that, or do we have the same
Planet is
word?
loka. No, planet means loka, right? Vaikuntha loka is also nothing to do with material world. A planet is a place where you reside. So any
Okay,
loka. Dhruva loka is one of them. Surya loka is.
this is
You talk about
Bhuloka.
Chandra loka,
Okay,
Nitya
okay,
loka. Yeah, yeah. Bhuloka. Yeah, exactly.
okay. So planet is any loka. It may be
Yeah.
spiritual or material.
Yeah, planet is English word, right? So we use
Okay,
loka because loka is loka.
okay,
Yes.
Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I see so many Gita Gyan joining the class, but thank you all for joining. We need to end here. Today we have the wonderful association of His Holiness Indradumna Swami Maharaj in ISKCON Sheshadripuram. So if you're around 9:30, the class starts. And I think we need to break our fast in a few minutes. So let's go back. Thank you all for joining in today. Shri Prabhu, if you have announcements, please carry on. But I'll drop off. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranams. Hare Krishna.